What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. My name's Inefficient. Today, I'm going to show you how to build the Ghast Blaster you see here behind me. Let's get right into it. So what are we looking at here behind me? So this is a Ghast Blaster, and essentially, this is just going to break your blocks for you. So this is going to help you take your farms to the next level and make it truly playerless and truly AFK, for certain things anyway. Of course, ghast can only break certain blocks, but we'll get into more on that in just a bit. So to start off, huge shout out to Slack Lizard, because the design you see here behind me is heavily inspired by his. Unfortunately, with some changes to the mechanics, his no longer works, and as I was poking around, I realized that there doesn't seem to be a working tutorial for a solid Ghast Blaster at the moment, and I figured I'd share the design I came up with a while back. So, what can we do with this? Well, as you see here in front of me, these are some of the blocks, if not all of the blocks, that you can actually farm and that the ghast can break. So on the left-hand side, these are all of the blocks that a ghast will break in a 3x3 radius, meaning we can push in blocks such as this, and the ghast will blow up all of these for us. These blocks, on the other hand, and these ones here, will only break in a 3x2 radius. So as you're pushing your blocks in, you're going to have this as the radius that you can break the blocks. Of course, that matters for the speed at which you can have your farms running and actually farming the blocks. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Now, why do I have these all set aside? The reason for that is that they're typically, harder to farm. They're not playerless. All of these are going to require some sort of player interaction. But if you do want to feed some of these logs into, or some of these blocks into a Ghast Blaster, I guess it would be possible. You just have to be very mindful. For instance, dark oak would probably require 2 of these in order to keep up with the amount of dark oak that you'd be producing, and then you'd also have to slow down placing your blocks and kind of limit yourself to a certain respect in that regard. But the options are there. So let's look a little bit more at how this is working here. So I've just got an off switch down here. When that off switch is triggered, the piston extends, pushing this piston, which has got a piece of glass attached to it, and that extends into the head of the ghast, which stops them from being able to see their target, and it just stops them from shooting. Now, you don't have to turn this off basically ever. They can just stay shooting, and you can leave the area. It's perfectly fine. Nothing's going to break the farm. That said, they're loud, so the on switch is there. Whenever the on switch is triggered, it's going to pass by, of course, and it's going to power those, like I mentioned, but it's also going to trigger this observer over here, which is going to trigger opening and closing these trapdoors very quickly. And 1 tick later, it's going to trigger the pushing down of these blocks here, or the slime blocks, which just pushes the snowballs down right at the ghasts. So that's what starts it up. A quick note, when you're starting it up, often what you'll find is they don't start shooting right away. And the quick, easy solution for that is just wait a minute. If they don't start shooting, just relog. And as soon as you log back into the game, they'll both be firing. As we come around here, this just brings the signal over for the lights, so just lights to show you the farm's on. So that is our zombie, our 2 snowmen who are sitting on candles to make sure that the ghasts don't actually hit the blocks they're standing on. And then up here we have the area in which we're breaking the blocks. So the ghast balls are coming up through the scaffolding, hitting the roof here, and as you see, I've marked out the 3x2 areas that they're going to actually destroy the blocks, and then the 3x3 blocks would extend out to here. For now, we're just funneling all of those items down into a little water stream, and then whatever you want to do with those is up to you. I've just got a chest stuck onto the side of it for now. Coming around back here, we can have a quick peek at what I've come up with for pushing the blocks in. So 2 ways to think about this. I'm either going to have maybe 2 tree farms, one on either side of this, and I'm going to push in blocks from either side, in which case this needs to go. And this would be the setup for pushing blocks in from both sides. If I decide I want to harvest, let's say, up to 12 blocks from another tree farm, I would need to feed all of those across here and push it in 6 at a time. Otherwise, it's going to come in too fast, and I'll have to slow down the nether tree farm in order to make the gas keep up. So the simple solution is just to feed all the blocks over, and then what we're going to do is just what I just destroyed. Is basically just move this setup over here to the side, and then power the entire line based on whenever a block reaches the very end, whichever side that might be. Last note I want to point out is the top here is 2 blocks, and it must be 2 blocks to avoid fires. So if I break a few blocks here and just wait for the ghasts, we'll start a big fire. So just to avoid the fires on your roof, we want that to be too thick. Let's have a look now at how much space we're going to need for this farm. So in total we are 23 tall, we are 12 wide, and 11 deep. Okay. I'll have a quick look here. This is all of the materials you're going to need for the build. I've rounded up the building blocks up here. Obviously you don't need to build it as exactly as I have, but if you wanted to follow along exactly, this is the building blocks that you're going to need. At the very bottom, I've got just two different options. So if you're going to be pushing all 6 blocks in and then 6 at a time are getting pushed into the actual blast chamber, then you'll just need this side here. And if you're planning to harvest, separately 3 and 3 and allow those to operate independently, then you'll need these blocks here in order to power the pistons. Additional note, the 2 target blocks are only needed for this side if we're going to be powering the 2 pistons, or the 2 sets of 3 pistons separately. So why do we have 2 ghasts? Well, in my experience, one just tends to be too slow. You might find that one's okay, and maybe start with one and plan to bring a second one in later. Of course, with the off switch, you could go in there. As long as you turn it off before you go in, the ghasts are blinded, they won't see you. So you can always add the second guy in later. However, I really do recommend putting both of them in there, just because of any of the manual place blocks, like for instance a mud farm. So as I'm placing the mud, I'm going to need to feed it in 6 at a time in order for the gas to keep up. The alternative is that I would put the pistons sort of at a push limit while I'm pushing the blocks into the gas chamber, so that they're extending, the farthest they can extend out is within the area for the gas to break. And for that reason, I really do recommend at least 2. So let's start off by putting in our floor here, and of course this can be any block you like. You could just leave concrete ahead below it, but that was just there to show the area in which the actual farm is going to be placed, or keep calling it a farm, but contraption, tower, whatever you want to call it. And that's going to be the floor, and of course we'll have, walls going all around the outside. Let's mark out now where we're going to have each of our ghasts situated. I'm just going to throw a couple of holes in the floor, see how close I get. Perfect. So these are going to be the locations where our ghasts are going to sit. We'll just mark these out with some quartz for now. Make sure they always stand out. Directly behind that, I'm going to put in a solid block. Perfect. 1, 2. Now we do want these rails facing towards the block, so if they're not already oriented that way, make sure to place the other one and change the direction. Now that we got those in place, let's start thinking about just the redstone. We'll worry about the walls and everything when we're done, and I think that's a good way to come at this from survival as well, because you got to get the gas in here. So you don't want to build up all the walls and then have to break them all down just to put the gas in. So we'll just focus on the redstone to start. Our on switch can be on either side, so that is perfectly up to you. Let me grab some bits and bobs and we'll get started. Alright, let's get started. So I've got Redstone Lamp to start off. We'll put a lever on that, and that's going to be our on and off switch. So light on equals on, light off equals off. Bring our torches up from here. And that's going to come up by 1 torch. That's 2 torches. 3, 4 Redstone Lamp, and then a torch on the back of that. In that way, both of those torches are both of those lamps are going to come on together. We'll grab some solid blocks, and coming out from the side here, we'll come all the way to the back, like so. And we'll run some dust on. Sorry, just to the second last block. Alright, so from this point, we're going to want to come up 1 block from here. So come on up, and then we'll bring this all the way across, and we're going to come back down a block on the opposite side. This all the way to the front. And we'll put our redstone lamp over here. Maybe we'll put a block behind it as well, just to reduce the amount of redstone dust in use. So torch here, put redstone dust all the way across except for these blocks, which we're going to break out, the ones in line with where our ghast is. Put some, actually, let's just put our pistons in now. So those are going to face down. And then we're going to want here, repeater, block, and some more dust. Perfect. So both of those should be extended. At this point, we're going to come down by 3. 1, 2, 3 with our slime blocks. And we're going to have a redstone block on the end of that. Now we need our sticky pistons again. Those are going to be pushing a piece of glass into the head of our ghasts, which is going to turn their pathfinding off, basically. So now that we've got this in place, we need to take our signal up, and we're going to do that from right here. So an observer looking at that with a torch, block, torch, another block on top of that. Have dust up here though. Blocks on either side, and a torch over here. On this side over here, we're going to put in a repeater facing towards the front into a block, and then we're going to bring that straight across, like so. We're actually going to, in these 2 locations right here, just go up by 1 more block, and then we'll come down on the other side. Okay, from this point, we're going to put in our zombie cell. So we'll put in some blocks here, and this is going to be where your zombie is standing. And now we're going to build this up. So we'll put some walls in place around. Front, we're just going to go 1 high. And we're going to put in our trapdoors from there. But before we do that, let's get our roof in place. We're going to have that be 4 blocks. 2 over top of the actual zombie himself, and then 2 over here. So dust, dust, and dust. For this one, you might want to make it a light block, or just spawn-proof that block. And same goes for much of the farm. Keep that in mind. Now we can put in our trapdoors, 1, 2, and that's where our zombie's going to sit. So of course, make sure you name tag them. For me, I'm just going to plop them down in here. So you can bring him up with a rail, drop him in there. He could stay in a minecart, that's perfectly fine. But they have to be in there, and they should be name tagged to make sure they don't despawn. So now what we have is our system that's going to, when the farm turns on, it's going to show the zombie to the snowmen real fast. And 1 tick later, it's going to power this redstone line, which is going to push these pistons, and these slime blocks, which are going to bounce the snowballs downwards. So for our snowmen, we'll come out using the floor here. So we'll come out by 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's going to be where we'll have our first snowman. Come across 2 block gap, and our second snowman. Break out all the temporary blocks. And that's where they're going to sit. So we can spawn them in the good old-fashioned way for now. 1, 2, 2, and 3. And there we go. So now those snowmen will be attracted to the zombie here, and as soon as they do fire, the piston will fire as well and shoot their projectile down. Moving on, we need to build up to our blast chamber next. So for that, what we'll do is just fill this line in here, and we'll come all the way to the sides. Perfect, so we're out by 3 on each side from the piston, and now we're going to come up by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so let's finish off these walls all the way to the front. And fill them all in. Here we'll knock out the blocks that we're going to be pushing in, so that'll be these 6. So that's where our blocks will come in. Now we need to put a roof on this. So again, this should be too thick. Alright, so for the back side of things, we have 2 options. One that I already set up over there. So first things first, let's look at how we do that. So the idea here is that we're going to bring in a line of blocks from each side, and then we're going to push them in sort of 3 at a time. So for that, we're going to put in a couple of torches directly below where we're going to have the blocks running in. And then from here, let's come out. This is where the piston's going to be, so come out here. Run a temporary line across. Well, actually, we'll just leave this line in for the most part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that'll be our pistons. So whenever something comes here, it'll power the blocks in this space here. So how do we get that power up and across? So for that, what we're going to do is just knock these out for now, actually. We are going to use some pistons. So if I come out from here and just put in a couple of pistons facing upwards, some obsidian on top of those, torch, blocks, and then some more torches. Now that is going to send our power through, so anytime I get a block in that space, it's going to turn on that torch. Now to run this down without interfering here, we're going to use a couple of target blocks. We're going to use definitely 1 piece of glass here, and then we can go like that. Dust, dust, dust. And that's going to power this guy. That one powers this one, and this one here. And keeps it all separate. So now we just do the same thing on the other side. And just like that. Anytime you get some blocks that come in this way, squish me, move over, they'll get pushed in. Okay, so that's option 1. Now, if I want to take 6 or more, maybe if I want to expand it this way and have more ghasts, that's also an option. No issue there. So if I wanted to push in more blocks at once, what we'll do is just think about it real simply. Pick a side. Doesn't really matter which side you go on. We'll put one on either side just for the sake of it. That's where your torch is going to go. And then when the blocks get to this spot, let's get rid of these guys as well. So when the blocks get to this spot, they'll power this block, and we can just simply wrap the signal around. Don't have to get fancy at this point. Just a little bit of redstone, and there you go. And, you know, obviously in that case, you got to kind of pick a side that you're going to be coming in from. So the blocks should come in across here and then go in. So that's it. Let's just cap this guy off here. And we're all set on the back. So for our item collection, what we're going to do is put in a block right at the same height as our slime blocks here. That's going to hold our scaffolding. And we'll go ahead and build that all the way across. This needs to be 3 to stop the explosions. You might be able to get away with just one, but I wasn't brave enough to try any less than 3. From here, we're going to need some ice. Any block will work just fine, but just to speed it up, I'm going to use ice. And lastly, what we're going to want to do is break out this line of blocks here for how we're going to actually bring our next line, which is going to come here. Break this out so our items can fall through, and that's going to be our collection system. Breaking back in, we'll make one quick change, and that is to put in our stairs for the water. These blocks out and put in our stairs. Please. And the water should stop right at the edge for us. That's perfect. We will use some more stairs because I think it looks good. Run those across. Bottom. Not there. Glass in next. And then put those on top there. Just for looks. Of course, you can do this however you'd like. Now we can bring it back in. Bucket. And there you have it. All of your items will make their way out here, and you can continue your ice path wherever you want to bring them. Now for the final part is actually bringing the gas into the farm. So unfortunately, there's no real easy way to deal with that, but what we're going to do is just prepare ourselves. Bring a line of rails out and around, and put in some levers. That way we can flip the rail without having to worry about too much. Make sure your farm is, the contraption is in the off position so that this glass block is extended over top of the rail, and that way they get blinded as soon as they get put into spot. Should be it. So let's go ahead and run some rails from here. Gotta grab myself a piece of scaffolding. I do recommend using scaffolding instead of putting minecarts when you bring them through from the nether to the overworld. Use a piece of scaffolding with the minecart on top, and I find you just have a better chance of catching them on the way through the portal versus them flying off into oblivion. Make sure you make your portal about 7 by 7 wide in the middle. It's bad if they get stuck in any block because they might get pushed out of the little area that you're trying to catch them in. I'll make maybe a little short on how I go about catching the gas just to show it off, but for today anyway, grab our spawn egg, put them in, give them a nudge, ghast 1 in place, flick our lever, repeat the process. Make sure you name your ghasts. And that's it. Now you can come in, break whatever blocks you can see. Unfortunately, not all of them, but at least it's something. And finally, you're just gonna have to build up your walls. there we have it. That's going to do it for today, folks. Hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I will see you in the next one.